because they can't get that consistency. Simple as that.
When we come back, Michael, you had mentioned the way they're prepping for these games and, how they're coming out to start the first and the third quarter. I want to ask you a little bit about Byron Scott's role in this and the role just of coaches prepping their teams in general for the top of these games, top of these halves. Lakers Locker Room Report, Andy Kamenetsky, Michael Thompson, ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
Tired for work today.
You need a 5-hour energy shot.
Yeah, I didn't sleep too well last night.
You want a 5-hour energy shot. It's the best thing since the wheel. Sometimes I can't believe it's real. Energy for work and some energy for fun and some energy for the gym. Drink some 5-hour energy and pump some iron. If you're tired from too much lunch, then try something that packs a punch.
Hey, now I really feel ready to go.
Thanks, 5-hour energy shot.
This is ESPN LA 710.
Lakers Locker Room Report on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network. Andy Kamenetsky in studio, joined by Michael Thompson from Staples Center. Lakers fall 95-90 to the Phoenix Suns. And, Michael, we were talking before about the way the Lakers starters, whether you're talking about D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, or just whoever has been in the starting five, has really struggled at the top of games and then after halftime. What role does a coach play in prepping guys and getting them ready when they come out for these games, and how much responsibility do they bear when you've got a few games in a row where, for whatever reason, the team just doesn't seem ready?
The coach has his role to play, no question about it. But you are a professional. When I was playing, I always depended on the coach gives you the game plan. And, he gives you your assignment, who you're going to be guarding, what you expect you to do. And then it's up to you as an individual, as a professional, get yourself ready to go from the jump ball. So Byron can only get these guys like John Wooden. John Wooden used to get them ready and said, now it's time for you guys. He did his part. Now it's time for you guys to do your part. And the Lakers have not been doing their part as individuals.
In your playing days, when there were times when you, either as a team or just you individually, Michael, just didn't have it in a game. Like it wasn't even a matter of playing badly. It was a matter of just unfocused, being unprepped. Generally speaking, what was the cause? Why do you think it happened?
What did you just ask me? Unfocused, unprepped? That never happened.
Well, no. Okay, Michael, not for you, but let's just other teammates.
That never happened.
Really?
The team I played for. Jack Ramsey is a coach in Portland, Hall of Fame coach. No way. Pat Riley? That's not possible. Wasn't even in our vocabulary and our DNA as far as being unprepared or unfocused. No, well, that was not allowed. Now, we played bad. Things just didn't go right. We weren't perfect, of course, but it wasn't because of lack of preparation or lack of focus.
Never even happened in San Antonio. Not even in San Antonio, Michael.
No. Well, as a team, maybe, but not for me. As a team, because obviously we were not a playoff team, and I was there for my 4 months. But, yeah, but for the most part, I was only in San Antonio for 4 months, just enough time to have a taco. So I can't even remember that. But my times to the Lakers and Blazers, no, we always came ready to play. Mike Trudell always gives me a hard time about that. Say, you guys never had a bad game? Of course we did. But we always got ourselves mentally focused and ready to play.
Well, here's the most important question, Michael. How are the tacos in San Antonio?
Oh, the Mexican food down there is so good. I think might be the best in the country. I know my Mexican-American allies here in L.A. might not want to hear that, but the food in San Antonio, the Mexican food there is so good.
No, my wife is Mexican-American she's from like the southern border of Texas and Mexico.
So you know I'm talking
I was going to say she spent a lot of time in San Antonio, and also I've visited down there a few times. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so.
I don't know why it's so different. I mean, the Mexican food here is delicious. Don't get me wrong, it's one of my second or third favorite foods of all time, but in San Antonio, I don't know, it must be some kind of secret sauce.
Well, it's it's the Tex-Mex style, but also too, you are really so close to the border and everything.
So are we?
Well, yeah, I get. Well, you know what though? I mean, I can only speak where she's from, McAllen. There is literally a bridge to Mexico where she grew up, Michael. I mean, L.A. is close to the border, but San Diego's closer, or whatever. This was a town that's basically like San Diego distance from the border.
About a 5 iron away from the border, huh?
Mm-hmm. Depending on how long you hit.
Yeah, really.
How long, how strong. Michael Thompson from Staples Center. Congratulations, by the way, officially an American citizen.
Yeah, that's right. Became an American citizen on Wednesday. It was an honor to be a part of the ceremony with 3,000 other immigrants who also took the oath to become citizens. So Fabio, the great romance novelist, That's it. He's a novelist. He was there. Rob Schneider from Saturday Night Live and Deuce Bigelow. He's an American, but his wife is from Mexico, and she became a citizen, so that was pretty cool.
This is quite a star-studded game, event for you.
It was 3,000 stars in the building, not just us, okay? It was all the people in there who were taking the oath from Vietnam had the most representatives. Second was Iran. Then the Philippines, and then Mexico was the sixth leading representative there, and a couple other countries, so it was great. 141 countries were represented on Wednesday, taking the oath of citizenship.
That's terrific, Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, really, a heartfelt congratulations. That's just fantastic.
Oh, yeah, man. It was a great honor, and great to be a part of it, and it's a great spectacle. It's definitely worth it, and definitely an honor to be an American.
When we return, I will be joined by Alan
I announced
Sleewa.
my candidacy for presidency.
Well, you got time, Michael.
That's right.
I mean, look, not to get too far in the weeds, but the party that you're with getting a little messy right now. I think they're looking for someone to emerge at the last minute.
Yeah, they need to bring me in there, and I'll settle things down.
You know what? You've got a few days until the next Lakers game. I think you got enough time to come up with your campaign plan.
Exactly.
Michael Thompson joining me from Staples Center. When we return, Alan Sleewa will be in studio. Andy Kamenetsky, Lakers Locker Room Report, ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
We are Laker Nation.
Randall, reverse dunk around 3.
This is the power of the purple and gold.
Kobe jab step, two-pointer over, he's a foul and a bucket.
From the home of Lakers basketball. This is ESPN LA 710.
Lakers Locker Room Report on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network. Andy Kamenetsky joined by Alan Sleewa in studio. Lakers fall 95-90 to the Phoenix Suns in what has been deemed one of the race-to-the-bottom games, a critical game.
Nail-biter.
Alan, if the Lakers are looking to keep their top 3 protected pick, I don't personally feel like it's really in much jeopardy at all, but this is one of those games that's been earmarked that could put it in trouble just because Phoenix is one of the teams that could potentially pass them in that race to the bottom.
For those who are on that boat, it's a little cushion. Mm-hmm. You wanted to split these 2 games with the Phoenix Suns. Now you could potentially walk away with, they got the 1 loss tonight. We'll see how they play. I think their game against Phoenix at Phoenix is on Wednesday. They go Memphis, and then they go to the Phoenix Suns. Interesting game again. I mean, I'm watching each one of these seconds. Really, yes, you want the Lakers to get the draft pick. At the same time, you still want to see some continued development from the young players. Arguably, combined between all 3 guys, probably their worst game of the season. Randall goes 1-9, Clarkson 2-13, Russell 2-10. It was the bench that got most of the minutes in that second quarter, and especially, I think, the entire fourth quarter, so we didn't see much of them in that second half.
Yeah, this was a really, it was a tough game for Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, really the starters in general. The starting 5 scored a combined 31 points on a combined, I believe it was 9 of 40 shooting. That is brutal. And the last few games, for whatever reason, the starting 5 has had a really difficult time just catching fire, getting going. They've had these slow starts. It doesn't help right now that they're playing with Metta World Peace, who most of these guys really haven't played with at all season, and Roy Hibbert, who is a non-factor offensively. But even taking that into account, something right now just is not working for this group.
And the key is in the beginning is when it's not working. It's not as the game progressed. Maybe the coach came up with a better game plan, or maybe they made some adjustments. The way it looks right now, when they played the Knicks, when they played the Suns tonight, these teams are coming out more prepared to play the Lakers. It seems like they're forcing Randall to do things he's not comfortable with. Maybe forcing Clarkson to take some jumpers that he's off balance. That kind of an attack where the Lakers kind of letting these guys, in that first quarter, they're continuing to dig themselves a hole that by the time the second quarter starts, they're already 10, 12, 15 points back.
Well, for those able to continue listening on ESPN LA, we will continue the conversation, break down what exactly is going wrong, hear from Byron Scott and other players. Everybody else, thank you very much for listening. It is the Lakers Locker Room Report on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
You've been listening to the Lakers Locker Room Report, brought to you by Pizza Hut. Order tonight at pizzahut.com. Gardens Casino. Get your game on at the Gardens. Hear every second of Los Angeles Lakers basketball all season long, right here on the ESPN LA Lakers Radio Network.
State Farm postgame show. Andy Kamenetsky, Alan Sliwa, ESPN LA, State Farm. We exist to assist. Lakers nail-biting loss against the Phoenix Suns. Nail-biting not just because it was a 5-point spread, but also because the Lakers were just 5 points away, Alan, from putting their top three protected pick that much more in jeopardy because A, the Phoenix Suns are one of the teams that the Lakers are competing with in the race to the bottom. But also, too, they would have been jeopardizing this pick by getting a win, potentially, with no D'Angelo Russell on the floor.
Right.
No Julius Randle on the floor.
And I know that bothers you.
No Jordan Clarkson on the floor.
Right.
They were playing badly. No question about it. 19 points on 5 of 32 combined shooting. But that being said, this would have been a potential win that I don't think fans or really much of anybody would have been that particularly pleased about had they managed to secure it that way.
I heard Ireland talking in the pregame show. He was mentioning to A that it's about a 9% difference. I know we've gone through those, those different calculations.
It's a weighted coin flip.
Right.
One way or the other.
I'd much rather have that 9% than not have that 9%. So going into this game, and we've all talked about this, whether it be on air or off air. Yes, we want to see the Lakers from their young players. We want to see them do well. We want to see them succeed. Tonight, that wasn't happening. It was Lou Williams that had 30 points. It was Marcelo Huertas that, again, came in and kind of played that quarterback role, 10 assists. But the Lakers ended up losing the game. So from our perspective, at this point, these wins and losses, the only thing that it can mean is that 9% difference of potentially getting that pick.
I mean, look, I've said many times, I'm not looking for the Lakers to intentionally tank games. I mean, they've got the losing under control.
Right.
They can pretty much make that happen no matter
all season.
Right.
So.
They can pretty much make that happen no matter what lineup they trot out there. I'm cool with Byron Scott trying to get wins. I'm cool with the front office wanting wins if they try to do it in what I think is the right way, a constructive way, which is where the kids close it out. They learn the process, win or lose, and you potentially create some good recruiting for free agents by seeing the kids actually put the team in the position to win or just playing well down the stretch in a loss. A potential win closed out by Lou Williams and Marcelo Huertas and Brandon Bass and all other.
Don't you forget Ryan Kelly.
Ryan Kelly, who at this point, who by the way at this point is a franchise savior. Everybody better really be thankful for some of the plays Ryan Kelly made down the stretch.
Andy, what would you do if you were Byron in this sense? So it's a very valid point that you're making, and a lot of people feel the same way about you. But if Randall's not playing well, Clarkson's not playing well, D'Angelo's not playing well, they really were shooting poorly.
Oh, they were playing terribly.
I mean, they haven't played well really in the last 2-3 games. And it hasn't been one of them. It's pretty much been all of them kind of together. I've been, in this terrible shooting slump and everything else. What would you do then if you're Byron? Are you then still saying, well, I'm going to keep going with these young guns, even though they're not performing well tonight?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the way Byron's coached all season, there have been plenty of games when D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle were playing off the bench and outplayed the guys who had been starting. And Byron ended up putting the starters back out there, and Byron said all season that he typically feels like starters should close games. That's the role that they play in as starters. And if that's the case, I mean, I think that's a pretty, pretty reductive, narrow-minded way of looking at it, but at least be consistent about it.
Yeah.
Be consistent. I mean, we've seen in a short sample size of Lou Williams being back, he's going to lean on Lou Williams, which kind of reveals that he hasn't really been forthright in the way he's been describing this. It's been about trying to get the win every time, like I like to say, empty calorie wins as opposed to the bigger picture.
We'll use Devin Booker as an example. So he had a pretty bad game, 5 of 18 from the field, and I haven't seen much of Devin Booker play this year, but I certainly love what they have in him for
good young
his
player.
career. he goes 5 of 18 but still plays 36 minutes. That's the difference, just what you're referring to. Here's a player that's not having that great of a game, but they're still going to go with him. And they're still going to give him that opportunity, whether it be in the second, third, or fourth quarter, to kind of find a way to get himself out of it. He goes 10 of 10 from the free throw line, gets an opportunity to get to the line, or, he draws some buckets. But at the end of the game, he's getting what you're calling is key minutes that are kind of learning moments that you probably aren't going to learn while you're sitting on the sideline.
Look, you can learn things from the bench. You can learn things as a player, watching down the stretch of a fourth quarter. But at the same time, you want tangible experience. You want to actually be out there. By the way, you want to give these guys the potential chance and maybe experience of actually digging themselves out of a hole, of actually playing well in the last 5 minutes of a game after stinking for the first 20 minutes. Those are things that great players do. All-star players do eventually over the course of their game, of course of their career. You want to give them that opportunity. And again, what does the franchise really gain, big picture or little picture, from a Lou Williams-fueled win? It's nothing against Lou Williams. He's not the problem.
Yeah.
But at some point, somebody needs to be the adult in the room and really take a look at what this season is about. And in a vacuum, this wouldn't be a big deal to me. But the problem is there's been no consistency at all in the way this has been applied.
The bigger concern for me is, and we talked briefly about this, just how they're starting these games. They almost look disinterested. They don't look, they're not coming out with this energy or this sense of urgency where, tonight we're playing a team that has almost as many losses as we do. They're just as bad as us, and we're home. We're going to make sure we come out tonight with a win. Or when they play the Knicks aren't that great of a team. Kristaps Porzingis wasn't playing. Where the Lakers, where it looks like they can come out with that, that fire, just something to kind of give Laker fans this notion that we know we're not that good, but the effort part, that's never going to be an issue. They haven't been doing that the last week and a half or so, really since they played that Golden State game. Then they played the Cleveland, or the, who was it after Golden State? It was Cleveland, another nationally televised game. Since then, it's been very, very kind of quiet and calm.
When we come back, we're going to hear from Byron Scott. Also, we'll be joined by Brian Kamenetsky, he bore witness to Byron Scott.
Heard the whole thing.
And he's going to break down
some questions.
He's going to break down what happened there at State Farm Postgame Show. Andy Kamenetsky, now Brian Kamenetsky, Alan Sliwa, ESPN LA.
It's Kobe Bryant saying goodbye to number 24.
As a child, he knew exactly what he was and who he was and what he was going to be. And I had never seen anything like it at the time. And 20 years later, I really still haven't seen anything like it.
I'm also forced to think about how many titles he and Shaq would have won if they stayed together.
Just came out of the Michael Jordan era. What was going to happen to the NBA? Everyone was trying to be like Mike, and Kobe actually got there. It was amazing.
Hey, it's Kobe Bryant, and you're listening to the home of the Lakers. A home for you in the Southland.
ESPN LA
710.
Stand up!
State Farm Postgame Show, Andy Kamenetsky, Brian Kamenetsky, Alan Sliwa, ESPN LA. Lakers fall 95-90 to the Phoenix Suns, taking their record to a robust 14-55 on the season. This loss had Laker fans particularly, I would say, on the edge of their seats, not because they were concerned about the Lakers dropping this game, but I think they were concerned about them actually getting back into it. It's become I think a lot. Oh, I think most.
Inside the building, I'm telling you, inside the building, it's a different atmosphere than what you get certainly on Twitter, what you get online. There are certainly diehard, Lakers fans who are dialed into the math. But I'm starting to get tired of the math arguments, if only because the narrative seems to become, if the Lakers finish with the second worst record in the league, they're going to keep the pick. They're going to get Ben Simmons. And, and if they finish with the third worst, it's guaranteed to go away. And the point of fact, I know you guys have said it, it's worth repeating again. Go to tankathon.com, look at the math. It's 56% you keep the pick. Not you get the number one pick, not you get the number two, that you just keep it from the second worst record. It's 46%, give or take, from the third worst. It's about a 9% difference, and that's a significant statistical gap.
We'll take the 9%.
If you're doing it 1,000 times, you're flipping the coins and doing all the combinations. In a one-shot lottery deal or whatever, it's coin flip. So do what is right. And then you then get into the question of what is right, Andy. And I know we have Byron, and a lot of that stuff, a lot of the questions of what is right can be debated straight from what he was talking about tonight.
Well, I mean, that question of what's right is how you go about actually trying to get the win. Because, and I've consistently said this all season, I know Brian said this too, and I think Alan agrees, I have no problem with the Lakers going out there and legitimately trying to win. I'm not looking for them to try to tank this season. They've got the losing under control even when they're trying to win. What I want to see them do is win games with purpose. And winning to me with purpose means you put the kids out there, D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, and let the chips fall where they may, win or lose, and let them try to get the win. Sincere effort.
But it is more than that. It's not just about how you go and try to get the win. It's also what is the best way to teach the young players and develop them. And Byron, as we'll hear when we listen to him, clearly has a belief that if they are not doing what he expects them to do, if he doesn't feel like he's getting whatever it is the expectation that he's asking for, that the better thing is for those guys to watch late in games. And so that becomes the debate point. Is he correct about that? And so, you know, and
no,
there was a lot of really interesting stuff and philosophically that comes out of what Byron said tonight.
Okay, well, Nexon has the coach's interview after every game, including this one. We're going to hear from Byron Scott right now, courtesy of Time Warner Cable Sports Net.
I mean, our first unit is just not playing well, period. And I think I said this the last game. They're going to have to figure it out. And, you know, lack of trust with each other is, to me, evident. You know, and they don't cover for each other. You know, I mean, it's night and day when you watch our first unit compared to our second unit. It's that simple. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with that. They just don't trust each other yet.
Is that strictly an on-the-court thing, or is that also personality?
No, I think it's strictly on the court. No, I don't think they trust each other, period. Just, you know, they don't understand how to play together yet. Simple as that.
You were saying the other day you probably want to change this. Is that?
No, I'm still not. I mean, just like I said the other day as well, they're going to have to figure it out. They got to figure it out. They got to get to the point where they understand that they have to rely on one another.
Jordan's had a rough 3 or 4 games. He just can't shoot. It's been unusual. He's been your steadiest player. What's going on with him right now?
I don't think that's no different than the other guys as far as what I just said. You know, Mike, they don't trust each other, and that goes all the way around. You know, so sometimes when he gets the ball, I think he feels he has to get a shot up. You know, and I think it just trickles down the line with our starting unit.
What solves that problem?
The same thing that solved it tonight. You play the guys that's going to play hard and give you a chance to win.
Which is the playing hard part or the chance to win part that is the problem relative to
both?
Byron talking about the season that Lou Williams has had.
You know, again, Lou's just one of those veteran guys that you pretty much know what you're going to get every night. You know, I talked about Brandon Bass this day, how I just love his professionalism, his work ethic, the way he just comes every single night. You know what you're going to get when you put Brandon in the game. Lou's the same thing. You know, and matter of fact, so is Marcelo. You know what you're going to get. You know, you're going to get maximum effort from those guys, and they're going to play the right way. They're going to try to get the ball to each other. They're going to try to play together. They communicate with each other. But again, you're talking about 3 veteran guys too. You know, and the other, you know, our starting unit, you're talking about a lot of young guys, and that's why I say they got to learn how to trust each other and play together.
How do you differentiate between playing poorly and playing hard?
No, I mean, you can still play hard and play like crap. I mean, you know, there's no really hard or really defined way to differentiate between the two. You know, you can still play hard and just play bad. And I thought, you know, for the most part, our first unit, the second half, when they were in there, they did play hard. They just couldn't make shots. And again, they didn't move the ball offensively like the second unit does.
Byron, is that still within that offensive set that we talked about a couple weeks ago? Are they not executing that, or have you guys gone away from that?
No, we haven't gone away from it. I mean, and they're not executing it as well as they do in practice. But so, I mean, but the biggest thing with me with that is our second unit executes it pretty well. And it's still the same set.
Hey, Byron, you mentioned obviously the second unit has some veterans, but just given the fact that this is the first year they played together, how did they build that trust?
I think a lot of it is because they just understand that they do need each other out there, and they're going to rely on each other. They're going to, make all the correct plays if possible, and they're just going to, play the game the right way. And when you've been in the league that long, you pretty much have a pretty good feel and idea of what to do. I mean, besides Marcelo, who's a rookie / veteran, he still knows how to play the game.
Generally speaking, how long do you feel like your leash is for sort of playing through failure? Or when you sort of get a chance to do it, go try again, and then, how does that, what's your...
I think my leash is pretty long, and so is my patience. They'll continue to get shots at it, but it's still an issue as far as, you want them to sit there sometimes and watch that second unit. So sometimes sitting there and watching how they play, it's no secret at practice. You guys don't get a chance to see this a lot, but I think you probably have seen a little bit of an end of it the last couple of practices. The second unit, which is the white team at practice, they seem to win every scrimmage we have. So that's why they play the way they play tonight.
Does that surprise you that they win?
Yeah, it does. But it did early. The last 6 times that hasn't surprised me at all.
And that was Byron Scott, courtesy of Nexen Tire and Time Warner Cable Sportsnet. Nexen Tire provides high-quality tires with the best warranty in the business. Learn more about one of America's fastest-growing tire brands at nexentireusa.com. Boy, there's a lot to chew on there.
Yeah, a lot of buzzwords thrown out around there. You hear Byron Scott. When coaches use certain types of language, when they talk about playing hard, when they talk about trust, these are loaded coaching words that the coach knows. The reporters in that room are going to walk over, leave the press conference, walk into the locker room and say, Byron, says you guys aren't trusting each other. And Julius Randle, when we asked this question, said he's exactly right. And in that way, what he means by trust is they're not relying on each other to make plays. They're too quick to go one-on-one and all these, and you can see it when, I think we were joking about this on Twitter, Andy. It's like as if the rule is the Lakers can't move offensively until at least 11 or 12 seconds have gone off the shot clock. Like nobody can set a screen, nobody can cut, nobody can do anything until there are 12 or 13 seconds left to shoot.
They're running a non-motion offense.
Yes, let's all stand still until we can make the other team fall asleep.
Which is an offense I've never even heard of. So they're actually creating an offense.
It's a variation of the classic motion offense. There's a reason it's not run a lot. There's a reason most coaches do not employ it.
It's a deconstructed triangle where it's just the points, and the points don't go anywhere.
It's a rhombus.
There's obviously, I am somewhat sympathetic to Byron only in the sense of there is obviously a problem with how they're executing what they're supposed to do. And then from there, my question becomes, are they putting in the work? Do you feel like at practice these guys are putting in the work and giving the effort and all that? And then are they putting in effort on the floor? He said no in the first half. He said yes for the first unit in the second half. If they're playing hard, I think they should play. Certainly more often than not. And this is the second time in 3 games since Lou Williams came back, Alan, that he's gone away from the starters.
I can see his perspective of the players are not playing well in the first half. Randall shooting poorly, Clarkson shooting poorly, and he brings in different players just to, okay, let me see what I could get out of these guys. Can Huertas play well? He's given Ryan Kelly, Larry Nance, he's given him a ton of minutes, these last few games. Sure. I can see the reason for doing that. But I also got to look at the players, too. Like you were just mentioning, are they working hard enough? Why are they starting with such low energy? Those kind of things bother me because that's something that these players can't control. If they go 1-9 from the field, okay, you miss a few shots. Hopefully the next game moving forward, you'll have a better shooting percentage. But those are situations you can control. So I don't want to just point the finger at Byron. You still have to point the finger at the players as well, as in like accumulation of all of them.
But, Andy, this is the thing, too. It's like, how often do you see coaches let, the second unit comes out, gives the team a lift, and then you put the guys back in and see if they can carry that momentum?
I mean, look, when we come back, I'm going to explain why both of what you said, Brian and Alan, is certainly true, but it's also irrelevant. State Farm Postgame Show, ESPN LA.
Booker dribbles right, double team, give it to Teletovic. Kicks it left side to Brandon Knight, head down, drive to the rim, left-hand layup blocked by Nance, taken by Huertas, foul in the back court.
Absolutely spectacular block by Larry Nance Jr. in an attempt to try to eke out the win for the Lakers. Team ended up falling short, but Larry Nance Jr., that was nonetheless the McDonald's defensive play of the game. McDonald's, I'm loving it. State Farm Postgame Show, Andy Kamenetsky, Brian Kamenetsky, Alan Sliwa. And we just heard from Byron Scott talking about the thought process of when he's going to allow the kids to close out games versus veterans.
Andy, when are the kids all right?
Never. Never. And, sort of what he's looking for as they're playing, what's going wrong right now, because the last 3 games, which also coincides with the last 3 games Lou Williams has been available, we've seen the starters get off to a very slow start, whether Kobe's been available or not available. They've looked very disjointed. They've been outplayed by the second unit, and the last 2 of the last 3 games, Byron Scott has let the largely veteran second unit close out these games.
And even the exception, which was who they play, who was the last game? They're all. I got to be honest with you guys. They're all starting to blend together.
Sacramento.
The Sacramento game. He was very obviously leaning towards keeping that second unit in until Huertas started turning the ball over. They stopped gaining that sort of momentum as things were going on. Somebody pointed out to me, and it's a good thing to notice. Kobe's not in the game, and the starting lineup they put out there, not exactly a dynamic offensive group. When with Roy Hibbert and Meta World Peace spacing the floor and serving as 2 of those guys, if you already have 3 rookies who aren't essentially 2 rookies and a second-year guy, and you add Meta, who is not a threat, and you add Roy, who's not a threat, it is a difficult setup and not necessarily one that's going to be conducive to putting up a lot of points.
And there's nothing fluid. It's not like it's the same starting lineup, and these guys are accustomed. This is where that player is going to go. That spacing is there. It really changes the dynamic, and that's been the case over the last, really this entire season. There's never been a lineup out there that the Lakers are going out with on a consistent basis and saying, man, we feel comfortable, we know how to play with each other.
Well, Byron, after the game, harped a lot on the idea that the kids, Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, don't trust each other right now. They don't trust each other in the way that they're playing. They don't trust each other to set up each other. They're all taking things in their own hands right now, and he kept harping on that. They don't trust each other.
Julius Randle agreed.
Right. Oh, no. He's not wrong. I don't think Byron is wrong in this assessment one bit. But I do think that it's fitting and kind of predictable that right now they wouldn't trust each other when it's very clear their coach doesn't trust them. And it's going to be very difficult for them to truly play in a way where they are extending that trust to each other and really feeling protected in that way when the last few games it seemed less and less like Byron Scott will trust them when there are hiccups.
It's interesting. It's like we were talking about this during the break. I am absolutely believe in accountability. I believe in responsibility. These are professionals. D'Angelo Russell might have just turned 20 years old or 19 or whatever he's
20.
He's 20. But he's still playing in the NBA. This is still professional basketball. Same with Julius Randle. Same with Jordan Clarkson. And you are held accountable for your habits, for your work, and for all these other things. But there are different ways to approach this sort of thing. And I know, Andy, you've talked about it, and Alan, you've talked about it. The default position for Byron is always negativity in what they're doing wrong, unless it's a situation like it had been for that 6-week stretch where D'Angelo was playing so well, you just couldn't say anything bad about him. And you could, then Byron sort of jumps up and takes credit for his development. There's another way to do that, where your default is still encouraging. It is still positive. It is still belief. And it seems like, Andy, what you would like to see a lot of, and I know I would, is that when they are playing poorly, and they are, you still find ways to either give them opportunities to work through it and learn, you know what, I can play poorly for 20 minutes and come out and play and make a significant difference for my team in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Is that just not his personality, really?
It is absolutely not his personality. It is
you have never seen the arm around the shoulder saying, "Look, D'Angelo, you made a mistake. Get over it.
He'd have
Let's
to
move
uncross
on."
his arms.
You
can't. How is D'Angelo supposed to get his head under his elbow there? It's just not going to work.
Walking over towards that bench and telling Julius Randle, "Hey, let it go. We have 15 minutes left in the game. Just let's move on." We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. But that's kind of the tough love that you're talking about.
It doesn't mean you don't hold them accountable. It doesn't mean if D'Angelo Russell or Clarkson, if they're not playing hard, they should sit. None of us would say the other way. But I mean, the language, Andy, I think matters, and the consistency matters.
Well, the consistency matters because there has been no consistency all season in the way this has been applied, because that stretch when D'Angelo and Julius Randle were coming off the bench, there were plenty of times where they outplayed their starting counterparts, particularly D'Angelo with Lou Williams, and Lou Williams would still close games. And Byron, when asked about this, would say that he feels like starters start, with the exception of Roy Hibbert, who never closes games. But starters start and therefore close games.
I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't have a problem
Let me just say, in this particular case, but I'm okay with that.
So, I mean, there's no consistency to that, and it goes back to the fact that at the end of the day, Byron trusts Lou Williams more than he trusts D'Angelo Russell. And he trusts, I think, right now, Marcelo Huertas more than he trusts Jordan Clarkson. And I don't blame him for trusting those guys more because they're more experienced. But here's the thing. I don't give a damn. I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because the priorities right now are misplaced. And Byron, and he's been doing this all season, is chasing empty calorie wins. And he's chasing these empty calorie wins by putting Lou Williams out on the floor to close games. And he's been doing this all season. And when the priorities are misplaced, as I think they've been all season, you're going to see those inconsistencies in a way that go beyond any type of like old school mentality. He could be new school and still have these exact same problems.
The best way, I was just going to say, Andy, Brian, the best way to kind of test this is, let's see if there's a game coming up, whether it's Memphis or it's Phoenix, where the starters, let's say they're playing better than they had been. And, from a bench perspective, even the bench is playing well. Let's say both are playing equal. Well, who's he going to end the game with? Because he does clearly have more confidence in Lou Williams and Marcelo Huertas.
And again, I don't
Brandon Bass and some of these other players.
In games where the starters play well, I think they'll finish. But what we're talking about here is a situation where only half of the developmental equation gets addressed. When they play well, they are, generally rewarded. Even setting aside the inconsistencies Andy was pointing out earlier, and when the young guys were playing as reserves, they still sat on the bench at the end of games. But let's just say right now the formula seems to be when they play well, they finish games. You reward them for playing well, but you're leaving on the table a whole other set of teaching opportunities where you give players opportunities to redeem themselves, to work through things when they're not playing.
There's an assumption that they're going
clear on his priorities.
Well, there's an assumption that they're going to fail. There's an assumption in the way Byron has been coaching with the kids that if you put them out there in these situations where they haven't played well, they're definitely going to fail. As opposed to clearly the trust that he's had with a Lou Williams, that Lou Williams can shoot 30% from the floor for 3 quarters, but I still believe in him down the course of games.
But you know what? And even then, there's still value. Let's say the reserves bring them back into this game, and he says with 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left, okay, starters, go back in, with the exception, maybe one of those guys sits or whatever. But
finish the game.
Russell, Randle, Clarkson, back in the game. Larry, you move over to the floor. We'll play that lineup. And it bombs. You know what? That's something you learn from, too. It's not just the saying that I assume they're going to fail, which I agree with you, Andy. That's right. But what happens? Okay, I gave you guys another chance. You went in there and you wet the bed again. What are you going to do now?
And Brian,
what do you come back to tomorrow at practice? What do you come out next week when we play again? These are all opportunities to learn and develop character and talent and trust that he's talking about, that Byron is leaving on the table because he's rigid about doing it this way and this way only.
He's saying it in a nutshell. In a nutshell, he's basically saying, if you're performing, I'm going to leave you in the game. The problem is, like you guys have mentioned, there have been moments earlier in the season where he hasn't been consistent with that, and that's where it's most bothersome today. It's because it's these young guys that are sitting on the bench. But I just look at it from one other perspective. If Byron is in a position towards the end of the game to just get a win, I think that's all he cares about. And he's been doing this for the last, I don't know, not like a specific stretch of time. Priority number one for Byron Scott is to win the game. Priority number two is to develop the young players. He's not changing that. I don't think he's going to change it the final 13 games of the season.
Okay. When coming up, I am going to explain how Byron can change that and what it will take to make that change. When we come back, Andy Kamenetsky, Brian Kamenetsky, Alan Sliwa, State Farm Postgame Show, ESPN LA.
Here is Lou Williams. Top of the key, driving down the middle, throws it up and in. So now the Lakers have figured out how to score. They've just got to come up with some stops. It's 75-65.
One of many nice sequences for Lou Williams off the bench tonight. The drive of the game, that was the drive of the game. Brought to you by Subaru Santa Monica. Stop by Subaru Santa Monica today and experience the new one-price policy. Learn more about it at SubaruSantaMonica.com, an LA car guy dealership. State Farm Postgame Show. We exist to assist. Andy Kamenetsky, Brian Kamenetsky.
We exist to exist, which is kind of spiritual. I kind of like it.
It is, actually.
Very zen.
We take this thing to another level. Andy Kamenetsky, Brian Kamenetsky, Alan Sliwa. And we were talking before about, and Alan, you mentioned this.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, you did. Oh, you said more than you think, my friend.
Don't make us roll back the tape.
You mentioned how Byron Scott has laid out priorities for this season, the way he sees what he's supposed to be doing. And he has said many times that winning is the first priority. Developing the kids is priority two. And I think it's very evident from the way he's been coaching all season, he is being 100% truthful.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would accuse
Today's
Byron.
a perfect example.
Yeah. Tonight, exactly. The starters not playing particularly well. Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, legitimately struggling. And the starter...
Yeah, they were a step below not particularly well. They were bad.
Playing really badly. And the second unit happened to be playing well, and Byron rode them to close out what was almost a win, a 95-90 loss to the Phoenix Suns. And this has been very consistent of Byron over the course of an entire season, where I think he's been putting what I label empty-calorie wins ahead of what should be the bigger picture of developing these kids and giving them every potential experience to learn from, positive or negatively, actually on the court in a tangible way. And you had said before, Alan, that this was a mindset that Byron doesn't seem to be breaking anytime soon. The way to make this go away, and this is something I know Brian and I have harped on a lot, is somebody from high up, whether Jeannie Buss, Jim Buss, Mitch Kupchak, needs to impress upon Byron Scott the number one goal is development, not winning these games. If you want to win these games in a way that truly develops them, fine. But the number one goal is winning. Number one goal is development. And if you think for some reason, you're listening to KSPN Los Angeles, if you think for some reason that your job security hinges on wins, you could not be more mistaken. And if this is not being said to Byron, that is a front office
particularly
failure.
The last part. It's like, because I think at this point in the season, it's pretty clear to me that Byron has, whether he's convinced himself of this, it just lines up with his world, whatever it is, he's convinced himself that the best way, and he said this, he's actually alluded to this throughout the year, the best way for these guys to learn is the way he's doing. The development comes from the way he's doing, the pursuit of wins, and so on and so on.
Got to earn your keep.
all of that, and he's lined it up this way for himself. The problem for me is that I just feel like he's wrong. I feel like he's leaving, like Andy alluded to, like we talked about earlier in the show, he's leaving too many options on the table. And I would think this in a world where the draft lottery didn't exist, because you would still want to do things in the way it wasn't about preserving the pick, and the Lakers were guaranteed to keep it, guaranteed to lose it, whatever it might be. You'd still want to operate in a way that takes these young players who are the future of your organization and develops them in the best way possible. And I just don't think, Alan, that he's doing it that way. I mean, it's just that I feel like he's leaving too much on the table.
The best chance for the young players, I mean, they're probably realizing this at this moment too. We have to play, not exceptional, but they have to play much better than they've played the last few nights to stay in the ballgame, because he's sending the message of whoever's playing the best at that moment is going to get the playing time. Not to say that, Ryan Kelly was killing it, so that's why I gave him 21 minutes. Or Larry Nance, you couldn't stop him on offense, that's why he played 28 minutes. It has more to just do with whoever's either most productive or whatever group collectively is most productive, he's going to keep them in.
It's not... The issue for me isn't the idea these guys should be able to play no matter what, simply to develop them. Brian,
because that runs into all kinds of other. You could be developing bad habits.
Well, you could be developing bad habits, though. But the idea of having to earn your place out there, earn the playing time, I have no problem with that. The problem is, though, I don't feel like Byron's motives on this is enough about teaching them a lesson, things that they can grow on and develop with their career. I think he's really thinking about, I want to win the damn game. And I trust Lou Williams more than D'Angelo Russell to win this game. And that's where the priorities are misplaced. By the way, though, just so it doesn't sound like we're just completely beating up Lou Williams, he played legitimately well.
It was great.
That's 30 points, 10 of 17 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3, 3 assists, including this moment late in the fourth quarter.
Here is Huertas. Left side, Lou for 3. It's good. 1 point game. 27 for Lou Williams, who leads all scorers.
And that is why Lou Williams was the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino Lakers Player of the Game. Fantasy Springs Resort Casino, located in the beautiful Palm Springs area, offers you all you need for a fun-filled getaway or a complete destination vacation. Whether your fantasy includes luxurious hotel rooms, exciting Vegas-style gambling options, fabulous dining, world-class entertainment, golf, or poolside lounging, you'll find it at Fantasy Springs Resort Casino. I don't want to take anything away from Lou Williams.
Oh, yeah, great
He's
night.
not the problem.
He's not. It's
other than his availability. Right. He's not the problem.
It was problematic.
In that sense, he's
it was
a huge
less problematic when he was injured.
Yeah.
It's. I think that Byron has convinced himself that the way he's doing it. The good news is, the silver lining is that's best for them too. It's best for the young guys this way too. Isn't that the good news? We can go after these wins and do what's best for the young people at the same time. I feel like that's how he's sort of justified it to himself. But I also feel like, Alan, this is where you need your front office and your coaching staff to be on the same page to make sure that, you know what, at the very least, why? What are you doing? Why? Explain this to me. What's your philosophy? Let's talk about this. And if we disagree, we'll figure out another course of action here.
So ideally, what would have been the scenario tonight? So let's say the Lakers down 16, 18 points in the second half. They come all the way back. What would have been the ideal situation? Ideal situation is when it got within 7, 8 points, he said, you know what, let's go all starters now again, or bring in the young guys.
Again, I think the part of this that's tricky, and I think where Byron gets myopic, game to game, you can always say, tonight, and we say this all the time, starters on the bench, they're not playing well, reserves stay in the game, they brought us back, they're going to stay.
Yeah.
The problem is, the same thing happened 2 nights ago. The same thing happened, happens a lot insofar as the young guys are. So at some point, you have to give them the opportunity to say, you know what, the reserves brought us back, now I'm going to put you guys back in to close it out. So whether it was against, it was against the Knicks, whether it was against tonight, yes, at some point you said with 7 minutes left, you put them back in. Not like they did against Sacramento, where it was becoming clear that second unit was no longer playing well.
Because if the Lakers were to, let's say, bring in the young guys and then they eventually lost, no one's really going to be sitting there saying, well, Jesus, we got the young guys, they came back in the game, and they didn't finish it for us, the world didn't end.
Well, but also, too, Andy, if they come in and they fail, that's an opportunity to go back and grow and build. And, okay, why did you fail?
Okay, I'm going to give
better.
I'm going to give you an example of, it's a different context, but the same principle of what we've all been talking about in just testing these guys in every single scenario possible, but also specifically testing them on the heels of struggle. You guys remember the game? It was actually 10 years ago because it was Andrew Bynum's rookie season where the Heat were in town to play the Lakers, and Shaq just destroyed Bynum on a dunk. It was a putback dunk. Bynum just happened to be under the basket. Shaq put back this miss and absolutely demolished Bynum. I remember I wrote a piece off it, and I described it as it felt like watching the roof fall down on a wheelchair-bound puppy, like just the way he got destroyed.
Yeah.
The very next
Bynum
sequence,
comes back on the other.
Picturing a puppy in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
It is sad.
That is very sad.
It's extremely sad, and that's how sad Bynum looked in that moment. Again, this is maybe not even 18-year-old Andrew Bynum.
Sarah McLachlan's sitting here going, we should put one of those in my commercials.
The very next play, Bynum ended up doing a spin dunk against Shaq, and you know who fed Bynum the ball? Kobe. Like right away, Kobe
get one right back.
Yeah, Kobe fed Bynum on the block. And I guarantee, because Kobe is way too smart and way too, self-aware in games, that wasn't just a happy accident. That wasn't them just running the play.
Absolutely.
I guarantee that Kobe wanted to see how Bynum would react in that moment. And Bynum came through great. And you know what? Maybe Bynum would have bricked it. Maybe he would have turned the ball over. But either way, there's value in seeing what guys are made of, particularly when they've been struggling.
That's fun. Alan Slewa just showed me a picture of a puppy in a wheelchair. It is a sad.
You know what, man?
It is as sad an image as you think.
You can Google anything. You can
easily.
Google anything.
I feel bad. Daniel Sherman Oaks, 55 minutes. All
right, we're going to squeeze in Daniel really quick. Daniel and Sherman Oaks State Farm postgame show.
Yeah, but the thing about this Laker team, it's really frustrating what is the point of this season? Like, I'm watching this game, and Lou Williams is making these points, and like you said, they're empty-calorie wins. What is the purpose? We're not gaining anything from it. Even if we win, even if we lose, if it's at least from the young guys, I could see that. And then the young guys, I think, have totally, drained him out. They're not listening to him. They're actually stopped trying, those three young guys. And you saw them at the end of the game. They were probably talking to Devin Booker, oh, we don't like our coach. I hope he's gone, and you actually get minutes, and we don't get minutes. And it's a hypocrisy.
Well, and I appreciate the call, Daniel. We're up against it. Hopefully, I'm thinking optimistically, they were talking to Devin Booker about where to go out that night. Like, as opposed to complaining about Byron.
None of them are old enough to go anywhere.
Julius, they could shoulder tap Julius to buy a beer. Or Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's like 24.
If they're not talking about In-N-Out Burger, we all got bigger problems.
Well, the next game is Tuesday against the Memphis Grizzlies. Lakers playing host at Staples Center. 6 o'clock pregame, followed by a 7:30 tip, obviously called by John Ireland, Michael Thompson. We'll hear from Mike Trudell. Afterwards, the State Farm postgame show. Hopefully, some of these issues will have either been ironed out through just a philosophical change or the kids playing so well that Byron has no other reason to take them off. Definitely would solve some problems. State Farm postgame show, Andy